Okay, folks, who'd like to start us off?
Hi, Brendan.
Hi, Rob. Tom.
Yeah.
Hiya. You mentioned just then about encouraging players to take on more of a leadership role. You talked about James Maddison, Harvey Barnes. Could you just explain a bit more about how you've encouraged that in terms of making them take more responsibility?
We're just looking at the game and analysing their own performances and looking at the team's performance and just giving them a voice. I think it's so important. You know, we'll have, as coaches and managers, we'll have ways in which we want to play and how we want the team to work. But it's very important that you engage and involve the players in that, because then that will give you a greater commitment. You know, I think the players now, they've got great knowledge. They understand their bodies. They understand the game. So for me, it's important that we can give them that voice, and I think that we encourage it in the training. You know, to talk. You don't need to be a big communicator, but the small talk's important. So it's just encouraging that development to talk about the game, talk about the things outside of the game, and be able to communicate.
Do you think those players you mentioned have taken a big leap forward in that respect when you compare how they were last season to what they are now?
Well, I hope so, Tom. I think that I've just mentioned the numbers there of those two boys alone. They've scored more in half a season now than what they've done over the course of the whole of last season. And so that's a great tribute to them. You know, we're demanding, we're testing them and challenging them every day in training, but that's a part of being successful. You know, these guys, their careers are short, so they don't have a day to waste and maximizing their talent. And thankfully, I've got an incredible group of players here that want to grasp that opportunity. So we create the environment for them and challenge them to be the best that they possibly can be. Now they have to want to do it, you know, but they're committed to being better, and they've taken on that responsibility. And if they continue to do that, then they will reap the rewards, not only individually, but as a collective.
Just finally from me, I remember, I've referred to this a couple of times, but press conference you gave after the Burnley game last season, you said it can't just be about Jamie Vardy, Yuri Tielemans. There really does seem to have been a change from then to now, doesn't there, in terms of the goals and the assists can come from contributions can come from everywhere on the pitch.
Yeah, and that has to continue. Like if you look at it in the Premier League, so you've got Liverpool 37 goals, I think it is. Manchester United 36, us 35. So in terms of goals, we're right up there and is one of the top teams. And you can't do that with just one player. You know, so there's a demand. If you look at the players, you know, we're always encouraging numbers to get into the box. So you should see our fullbacks getting in there, midfield players, attacking players, because everyone has to contribute. And of course, it's the same on the defensive side. There needs to be a collective, synchronized mentality to defend. So yeah, but that's something that's a process. It doesn't happen with a click of the fingers. It's training, it's working, it's analysing, and it's improvement.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's go to Rob Tanner, please.
Hi, Brendan.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, good. Yesterday, probably related to the last question, really. Cengiz Under, very exciting player. We haven't seen a lot of him because of injuries. Can you hear me?
Can now.
Sorry, Rob. Yeah, I can hear you now. I didn't hear that at all. Sorry.
Sorry, I was saying it's probably related to what Tom was asking you about. Cengiz Under, we haven't seen a lot of him because of the niggles he's had and getting up to speed in England, but he looks such an exciting player. The fans seem very excited by him as well. How's he settling in, and when do you think he'll really be up to speed for you?
Well, I think he's at a good level. I think he, as you say, Rob, he's had frustrations with injury and whatnot. He was coming in from a different training program and a different games program, and the physicality here, so that was a big adjustment for him. And obviously, of course, then he wasn't fit physically when he came in. So you marry that along with the injuries. He's sort of shown in European games those qualities. He's shown coming into some Premier League games his qualities, and that he is a talent. And what we're trying to develop him into is being a working talent. You know, if you could to play in our team, you got to be able to press the game. You got to be able to be aggressive, and then the other qualities will come. And if we don't have someone doing that, then the identity and the makeup of our team doesn't give us the best chance to win games. So all of this adaptation he's taken to, but yeah, it's just a continuation. The teams have been in really good form, but he's working hard behind the scenes. He's still a young player, even though he's got really good experiences. And he'll, again, like some of the others, he'll prove really a real useful asset for us in this second part of the season.
Is he someone that down the line you'd like to keep here permanently? When will that decision be made?
That'll be at the end of the season. I think that once we get that sort of continuation and that consistency of seeing how he is on a daily basis and what effect he has in the games, whether he starts or whether he doesn't start, you know, that's the beauty of this loan period. We get the chance to have a real look at him and see how he can impact consistently.
Thank you.
Cheers, Rob.
Okay, Jordan Blackwell, please.
Hi, Brendan.
Hi, Jordan.
I know you spoke a little bit about it last week in terms of the transfers and the recruitment side of things. I think you spoke about analytics and that kind of thing as well. I was just wondering what your personal involvement in the transfer process was. Is it just a case of identifying a position you'd like to strengthen and a type of player and then leaving it to the recruitment and analytics side, or are you sort of involved at every step of the way?
I think as a group, so you have Lee Congren, who's our head of recruitment, John, who's the director of football, and myself will have a look at where the gaps are in the squad and where we want to improve. We'll then highlight the positions of where we need to strengthen. Then Lee will go away, and along with John and his team of people, they will then come up with the players that fit the profile of the market that we are in. And then once they've done that, we'll then sit down again and we'll look at the recommendations that then come through. And then that's obviously a whittled down number of players. And then from that there, we'll then have what will be 3 options that we would be happy enough to take in. We hope we can always get the number 1 option. But yeah, that's really the process. And then obviously, of course, once the players identified, and then John and Lee will go away and see if they can then complete the deal for the club.
Obviously, you mentioned that you want an attacking midfielder. Obviously, there's about a week to go now in the window. Are you, with time ticking on, do you become less confident of getting one, or because you're searching for one, are you becoming more confident of getting one in the next week?
I think we know what we've had for a period of time. We would know the type that we would want. You know, we've had a few players that have been on the list, so it won't be really anything from the club. We have a number of targets that we would like to get in. It's just the availability of those, and this stage of the season. So yeah, whether we get one in or not, I'm not sure. Like I said last week, I would love to get another attacking midfield player in, because that would also allow maybe 1 or 2 of our boys to get out and get some games and get playing. But if we don't, it certainly won't be. It will be nothing that the club haven't done. You know, there'll be everything here within the club, and if we can get someone in, great. If not, we'll just have to wait till the summer.
Thanks, Brendan.
Thanks, Jordan. Thank you.
Okay, let's go Graham Hill, and then we'll go to John Percy, please.
Hi, Brendan. Hi there. Just looking at the next few games without Jamie, in the past that might have rung a few alarm bells, say with critics outside of the club, and be seen as a test of Leicester's credentials. But it sounds to me as if you've moved to make this kind of a seamless thing where you can allow for a loss of a star player and prepare for that better than before, maybe?
Well, it's just time. I think that, and listen, you also have to give you also have to respect the other players. I think we all know Jamie's qualities, and we all know what he gives the team, and whether he's scoring or not scoring. So we understand that, but you also have to respect the rest of the squad and their developments. And like I said, all the numbers that are there as evidence to look at. You know, it can be a little bit lazy if people just say, well, Jamie Vardy's out, that Leicester won't score. You know, there's enough evidence to show that that's not quite true. Now, whether that was an issue or a problem before, it's certainly something that I've always tried to work on the collective to ensure that it doesn't hamper us so much. You know, the problem is if there's a number of players out in key positions, that can really affect the performance level, and you really have to work hard to try and cope with that. But otherwise, Jamie out for a small period of time, we would like to think that, okay, we're missing that real direct central threat on the last line. But you see from the team yesterday, you can still penetrate, you can still get in behind through different avenues, and you can still get players into goal-scoring positions. And we have enough quality that can get us goals.
I mean, ideally, you'd like that kind of talk to disappear, really, and it has been made over the years that sort of the goals come from Jamie. But if you could gradually get people around to thinking that, you know, there's plenty of other goal threats.
Yeah, I just think it's if people just do a little bit more work and dig a little deeper, then they probably would see, you know, that like I said, that's not the case. You know, if you scored 53 goals up until now, and 40 of those have come from other players, then it probably tells you that there's other players that can score goals. So, but maybe that's not something that gets looked at. Not with you guys, of course, because you are obviously very diligent in your work.
Yeah.
But try and you know, try and have a maybe a slightly different narrative, and that's not taken away from Jamie, because I've always said, you know what I think of him, and you know the love I have for his game, and I just, you know, I love watching him before I came in here, and I love even more watching him now he's in my team. He's an amazing striker, but my job is to ensure the collective doesn't suffer, and that's what I do.
Thanks, Brendan.
Cheers, guys.
Okay, John.
Hi, Brendan.
Okay, John.
From talk of diligent workers to me, that was a easy segue there, wasn't it?
That was just right on you.
I'm just following up Jordan's question, really, on recruitment, really. You know, when obviously you've got a player like Fofana who you're watching, I mean, how does it work? Is it sort of like, I mean, how long were you watching him for before the club, you know, presses the button? And, you know, is there a sort of real buzz around the place, around the recruitment, when you're looking at a player like that and thinking, I think we've really found one here?
Yeah, there was a few targets, and some of them had went on to other clubs. But we'd stayed with Wesley in the hope that he was the one player that we wanted in, and there was maybe a risk in the window that we weren't going to get him, and we may have been really short come the end. But it was just, our decision was to stay on it, because this boy was a massive talent, and Lee and his staff had done so much work on him. You know, with a summary of so many pages on everything, on his game and what he was like off the pitch and his background, and obviously once you'd seen him play, then we felt that, and especially in this time when it's difficult for staff to get out and watch live games and whatnot, it really was for us no risk watching him, you know, without seeing him live. Just seeing his qualities and all the research that was into him, he was the one that we really wanted, and even at someone, you know, because people were looking at it, and he's hardly played. He's never been in any of those top international teams, but thankfully we were able to complete the deal, and you see his talent. It's just, you know, Lee was someone that I remember him coming to me, and he said the same thing about Philippe Coutinho when I was a young coach at Chelsea when he worked there. He told us the same thing. He told me the same thing about Hudson Edward at Celtic. You know, that these are cracks, young players that are top players. And with Wesley, there was other options, really good options. But he was the one that you could see fits my profile of player that I always asked for, the aggressiveness and the speed and the off-field stuff is concentrated on his football and just a good person. So yeah, we were absolutely delighted to get him, and he started so well.
And just a quick one. I mean, I know you mentioned the French Cup final. Was there any other game where you sort of saw him and thought, hang on a minute, was there any sort of special moment in any games, you know, obscure moment where the ball's 80 yards up in the air and he's taking it down? I don't know, anything like that, really?
No, nothing specific. I think whenever Lee came into my office and him, I and John sat down and were looking at him, you could just tell he'd showed us a few others and he'd kept him, and he said, listen, this is the one. And when we seen it, he just his anticipation of the game. There was lots of moments. There wasn't one particular, I would say, but it was there was a number of highlights and of where he was good, and you could see the areas where he needed to improve. You know, that was also, it wasn't all, you know, there was development there. You could see it, and naturally as a young player, but that ability was absolutely clear to see. And if you knew obviously his background, he was a good boy and everything else, then you know he's coachable. So, and for me, I've always been one. You know, I hear, you know, I listen to games and I watch games and I hear people talking about he's, you know, it's difficult for a young player of 20, but I never put an age on anyone. It was the same with Sterling. He was top player, but he was 17. And it was the same with Wesley. You know, Wesley's a top talent. He's 19, so I don't think about his youthfulness. Just stick him in and see what he does, and then we'll find out.
Thanks, Brendan. Cheers.
Okay.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Cheers, guys. Enjoy the snow.
Thank you, Brendan.
Thanks. Cheers.